If you're looking for a down-to-earth, relatable protagonist who handles her life falling apart with humor, look no further than Anastasia Pollack. USA Today and Amazon bestselling author Lois Winston writes mystery, romance, romantic suspense, chick lit, women's fiction, children's chapter books, and nonfiction. Lois is an award-winning craft and needlework designer, and today we are talking about her Anastasia Pollack crafting series. Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews, and welcome to you, Lois.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's really nice to have you here. So I do want to start just with Anastasia Pollack because that's a fantastic name. The main character, she's smart, she's clever, but the thing I love about her is just that deadpan sense of humor. You know, in the worst situations, she's just like throws out a quip. And I kind of want to know if that comes naturally to you, and if we can have coffee every day if it does, or if she is based on someone.
Humor is something that I never knew was inside me, to be honest with you. Years ago, when Bridget Jones' Diary came out, my agent was trying to sell my first book, which was a very angsty romantic suspense. And she said, why don't you try your hand writing chick lit, because there was such a demand for chick lit. So I tried it, and lo and behold, I can write humor. I'm not a funny person in real life. I'm the person who 12 hours later will think of the perfect thing to say as a retort to something.
Yeah, again, I think that's that writer thing where we're good at writing stuff down. Things don't naturally come out of our mouths.
No, they absolutely don't. I mean, maybe if we were comedy writers for television or something and got our start at Second City or someplace like that, but no.
All right. So again, with characters, because the characters are just, they're so vibrant. They just like, they don't just come alive. They like pop off the page and grab you in. So Anastasia's mother and her mother-in-law couldn't be more different, couldn't be more crazy, and couldn't create more conflict. So again, do you know anybody like these, or?
Well, to be honest with you, Anastasia's mother-in-law, Lucille, is based on my own mother-in-law, who was a card-carrying communist, and with whom I had the misfortune of living for 6 years. So other than the fact that my mother-in-law never owned a French bulldog named after a communist manifesto, Lucille's personality is very similar to my mother-in-law's personality. Now she's no longer with us, so she never got to meet Lucille, but she probably wouldn't have read my books anyway, because she thought I was stupid, to be honest with you, because she was the kind of person who she knew everything, and you never had a conversation with her. It was always her lecturing somebody else, because she had read the definitive book. She never stopped letting you know how smart she was, which I'm sure came from a lot of insecurity, probably.
Right, yeah.
Lucille is my mother-in-law.
Well, then I'm just going to say it. You're a saint, because it's like, wow, that is just not a nice person, but she is such a great character, because she does cause.
I have to tell you, I do have some relatives on my husband's side who don't talk to me anymore, but my sister-in-law thinks Anastasia is the funniest thing going, so.
I kind of understand that.
She knew her mother well.
That's great. So I do want to jump into the crafting. The title of the book is Death by Glue Gun, and
actually it's assault with a deadly glue gun.
Assault with a deadly glue.
Yes.
Sorry.
Death by Killer Mop Doll is the second book.
And so, you know, glue guns do obviously play a major role. but I love that there is crafting involved. Anastasia is a crafting editor at a women's magazine. And so we actually get to see her, put little appliques on tennis shoes and things like that, which I just find delightful. And then reading the instructions at the end of the book. And I was really interested in the birdseed roses. And the first thing it said was with the sewing machine, stitch. And I was like, oh, I don't sew. Sewing machines hate me. So I was wondering if you had any kind of is there a favorite crafting thing? And then are there any crafting things you actually dread a little?
Well, I really enjoyed years ago, counted cross stitch. And that was my favorite thing to design. I always preferred the designing to the doing, which being a designer in the industry, I did have people that made the models for us for photography and stuff. So that was always a good thing as far as I was concerned. The things that I really don't enjoy are, I'm not much of a knitter or a crocheter. I always called myself a necessity knitter. If I couldn't get one of my relatives to knit something for me, my aunt was a terrific knitter, and I would sit down and I would knit something if there was nobody else available to knit it for me at the time. I've never done tatting. It just there's something about tatting that just I can't wrap my head around. I'm not quite sure what it is, but my brain doesn't. Yeah. I mean, my brain doesn't work that way. But basically any other needlecraft I've enjoyed. And I worked for a series of different manufacturers who some of them branched out into different crafts, and I would have to be, when something became popular. It was like, well, we should do a book on this. Okay, I'll have to sit down and teach myself how to do it. So I've done just about everything that there is to do in the way of crafts.
That is excellent. I can crochet, but when I look at knitting needles, all I think is I could use them to eat Chinese food. But other than that, no, I have no idea.
They're kind of slippery. I don't know if you'd really be able to do that.
All right. So Anastasia lives in New Jersey and used to work in Manhattan. And you have said that your favorite city is Manhattan. And she now works in New Jersey. So I just wanted to know, because they do feel so real. Have you ever lived in either of those places?
Up until this past summer, I lived most of my life in New Jersey, with a brief stint in Pennsylvania in the Philadelphia area, because I went to college outside of Philadelphia. I've always lived within, I guess, maybe 20 miles or less from Manhattan. It's just my favorite place in the world. I am now living outside of Nashville, which is a real culture shock. We have no family left in New York, New Jersey area. And as my husband and I are getting older, we figured, we really need to be around family. So the choice was Nashville, where our younger son and his family live, or out in the Bay Area of San Francisco, where our older son and his family live. And it's a lot cheaper to live in Nashville than it is in San Francisco.
California is crazy.
Yes. So over the summer, in the middle of a pandemic, we wound up moving to the Nashville area.
So are you going to incorporate any of that into any of your writing?
Maybe eventually, but Anastasia is such a Jersey girl. There's no way she's ever moving to Nashville.
No, a Jersey girl. It's just what she just emanates from the page. Yeah. And also I just, there aren't that many scenes in Manhattan, but I was.
Depends on the book. There are some books where it takes place more in Manhattan, other books it takes place more in New Jersey. I actually sent her to Barcelona in one of the novellas that I wrote. She went when Zach had to take, had an assignment in Barcelona. He took her with him for a long weekend, and she winds up getting kidnapped on the first day.
As you do when you go to Barcelona.
Yes, absolutely.
Barcelona is another one of those cities that is just stunning. Just so.
And it was a perfect place because of all of the Gaudi mosaics and buildings and everything. And my husband and I had gone there on vacation, and I just knew immediately, I have to set a book here.
Yeah, the whole Gaudi park and all that architecture and just and the cathedral and all of that, it's just, I don't think people understand just what an amazing and like almost otherworldly city it is.
Right.
Yeah. What a, yeah.
And the fact that he built those buildings so long ago, they're so modern. You would think that he, is still living and working, but they're quite old.
Yeah. Yeah. Gorgeous place. Yeah. Set more books there. I like reading about that too. Yeah. I had actually never been to New York City until like 2018. And yeah, just, it's like everywhere you turn in Manhattan, it's like, oh, I saw that in a movie, or, oh, I read that in a book. And yeah, so it was fun to experience.
This summer that I went into 9th grade, I went to a fine arts camp that was on one of the college campuses in New Jersey. And my roommate was someone who lived in Fort Lee, which is the town that's on the New Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge. Okay. And we became the best of friends. But there was no public transportation to get from where I lived in Union to where she lived in Fort Lee. And we had no parents that would drive us back and forth because it was too much of a drive. But it was very convenient for us to hop on the bus and meet at the Port Authority, which was a very safe place back then. Good. And at least once or twice a month, we would meet in the city. And back then there was the tickets booth where you can get discounted tickets for Broadway shows. You could only do that back then if you were a student, had a student ID. It wasn't open to the public. Mm-hmm. We used to go to Broadway shows on a Wednesday, or if there was no school, on a Wednesday or a Saturday matinee for the price of going to a movie. It was fabulous. I saw so much Broadway from the time I was like 12 years old on. It was great. Yeah. That I'm really jealous right now. I am a theater person, and we were in Chicago a couple of weeks ago and saw Six, which, if you haven't seen that yet, based on the I just purchased a season subscription to the one theater in Nashville that gets touring companies, and Six is part of the package. The first show is the end of July, and it's Hamilton, which I had tickets for, and then the pandemic hit and Broadway shut down. My tickets were for April 1st, and Broadway shut down on March 12th.
Oh, 2020. We don't. Yes. Well, you'll really appreciate Six because you sort of have that connection of the Six Wives of Henry VIII, who was the father of Elizabeth, which Shakespeare wrote during that time. And you have a Shakespeare quoting parrot, whom I love because I teach Shakespeare actually as one of the courses I teach. So, and Ralph does something that I can't do, which is name the act and the scene. And I have never been able to do that.
Well, I rely a lot on open source Shakespeare for that.
It's always been one of those, someday I'll be able to say, Hamlet, Act 4, Scene 3, but no, it's never going to come. So yeah, I love Ralph. I just think he's fantastic. So yeah, and that actually brings us to, have you ever owned a parrot? Ralph is an African gray. I had a boss once who had one.
I have not, but I had a friend who, a fellow writer, Jenny Gardner, who owned an African gray parrot. And she actually wrote a memoir about the time that she and her family owned this parrot. And I learned a lot about African grays. And when I was when I was asked to write on the Anastasia series, I knew that I had to get a pet in there because mystery writers, cozy mystery writers enjoy having dogs or cats in their books. And I do have the communist dog and the Russian princess cat, but I figured, oh, it'd be so cool to have a parrot. And then I thought, how about a Shakespeare quoting parrot? Just something that popped into my head.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, I had a boss once who brought his African gray to work with him. And when I was interviewing with him, I thought it was a statue. And then it like jumped on his shoulder and I was just like, but yeah, totally house trained. He'd take it out in the morning and just let it fly around the yard. And then he'd drive it in.
That's one of the things that I learned from reading this memoir. And, they seem like a great pet to own.
Yeah, he was a neat. And plus he's just beautiful bird. Yeah. All right. So what are you working on right now? I mean, I read a litany of things that you do. What are your priorities?
I just finished writing the 11th book in the series. It's going to be called Guilty as Framed. Just sent it out to my beta readers this morning, as a matter of fact.
Oh, congratulations.
So that will be coming out at the end of the summer, hopefully. And after that, I'm probably going to start on number 12 because I found that that's where my readership is. I did write another series. There were 2 books in it so far, my Empty Nest series, but they haven't caught on the way Anastasia has. So I just decided, why waste my time writing books that nobody wants to read when they want to read about Anastasia?
We really do. We really love Anastasia.
I will just keep writing Anastasia as long as people want to keep reading about her.
All right. Well, that sounds fantastic. That is all the questions I had for us today. Thank you so much for meeting with you or meeting with us. And I look forward to, I already have the next one. I already started that one.
Great.
And getting the rest of the series. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me to spend some time with you. This was a lot of fun.
I
always love talking about Anastasia.
Always. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.